Hello and welcome to Rolling with Reviews. I'm Will, and with me is the corporate officer herself,
Sarah.
And today, we are looking at a review of Android Infiltration. Sarah, tell us about this game.
All right. Set in the dystopian future of Android, Infiltration is a card game where players are thieves competing to steal valuable secrets from a highly secured corporate facility. So, Will, why did we get this?
So, we had a friend who had Android the game. It was a fantastic game. However, it was rather daunting in just how much was in there. So we looked around, said, okay, there's plenty of other Android type games. I think Netrunner was a little too head-to-head. So we saw this one, figured with it being a press your luck, should be, hopefully it just gives us enough of that Android feel.
Right.
And we could go from there and have a nicer, lighter version of an Android game.
Right. That pretty much is exactly why I have nothing to add there. So let's move on to what we do like about the game.
So when it comes to the items in the game, there's all sorts of different funky little tools, and from drones to hologram projectors, and any of those tools do make sense, and I really like how they express themselves in terms of game mechanics. I can definitely imagine those buckyballs doing what it is that they do and incapacitate and hinder people that run into them. So that is part of the thematics that I think really shine in terms of the game.
They are what brings the Android world to this game.
Yes.
It is definitely the best element of the game that expresses that.
Right.
Also, the push your luck, it's interesting. And it is part of what we do like, although there are definitely aspects we don't. And like you said, with the item cards, they really present some really interesting card play. There's some interesting choices that you can make on manipulating the game through that.
Yes.
Unfortunately, that about wraps up what we like about the game. And now let's start the long list of what we did not like about the game. It's overly complicated for a push your luck game.
Yeah, they do use a lot of terminologies that's centric to a dystopian cyberpunk future. And because, I mean, our first game, Project Dreamscape, pretty much did the same thing. It's something we're guilty of. It makes it so that the simple rules are overly complex because it keeps calling out these terms that you're not necessarily familiar with.
Right.
So that's where a lot of the denseness comes in for trying to explain the game. I wouldn't say the game is actually very hard, honestly.
No, it's not a difficult game. I mean, you're generally, choosing one card? Yeah. I mean, the one card you pick for your character might lead you to play more cards. But generally, most of them are going to be pretty simple. Play a card, do its thing, and that's your turn. So it's not that complicated. And the push your luck is how far into this facility are you going to try to go to get points? I equated a little bit to Ink and Gold's feeling of trying to go deeper into the temple to get the gems, and when are you going to turn back and escape. But unfortunately, there's a complicating factor to this game that Ink and Gold does not have, and that's player elimination. You have a timer that, it's not an actual sand timer, it's not actual time, but at the end of each round, there were two different, level things that I'm not remembering what they were called.
Well, you roll a die, and then you compare the alarm level and add that to the die.
Right.
And then slowly add up essentially this countdown timer when the authorities come and get there. Now, that timer is nice in the fact that it works for everybody.
True.
So when there's player elimination, it's all players.
Right. You're not being eliminated during the course of the game. It's that if you don't get out of there, and it's not like Ink and Gold, where Ink and Gold, you just say, I'm leaving, and you're out. Here, you actually have to make your way back to the beginning. And if you don't make it out before the thing hits 99, then you're eliminated. And everything that you've gained up to that point amounts to nothing. You've gained 0. That's it.
Yeah. So the problem is the latter half of the game is very dry because your action is essentially, I'm retreating.
Yep.
Okay, we all retreat. Any complication? No, okay. Next turn, I'm retreating.
Yep.
And that's how, like, 5,
Yeah,
6 turns, depending how far you got in.
Right, and we, when we played, only got in through the first level. I got to the end of the first level, but we never made it to the second level. I did read that there's apparently an elevator on the second floor, so if you find it, if it's in your game, because there's a random chance that it's not in your game because of setup, if you make it to it, then it takes you back to the beginning. But there's a random chance it's going to be there, and there's a random chance you're going to get to it. And so the risk versus reward is just not there. And to have such a boring part of the game of, well, I have to retreat now, and whatever points I've got are the points I've got, it was just boring.
Yeah. And as Sarah pointed out, the item cards are like the best part of the game. This leads to another problem. They aren't necessarily the easiest things to get more of.
No. You get an assortment of them at the beginning of the game, and then you have to be lucky enough to get to a room and be the first one there, because for what we found, now I think there were a couple of rooms where they did have reoccurring that you could keep activating it to get cards. Unfortunately for us, that just wasn't the case, and it was a one-time use. And so whoever got there first got to draw cards, and that was it. If there was a draw new cards at the beginning of every round, or those ones were reusable, like I could keep getting new cards, I would have liked that a lot more.
Yeah. So that then leads me to, I absolutely love the thematics for the items. Mm-hmm. I absolutely dislike the narrative theme.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense. Supposedly we were all on the same team at one point, and we were hired by this guy.
In fact, he can even be one of the characters that goes with you and be one of the active players in the game. So your boss is with you.
Which doesn't make any sense. And then you all turn on each other. For no reason, you're no longer going to be a team, you're no longer going to work together, and now it's a free-for-all on who can get the most data? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, it makes sense in terms of, yes, information is important. It's worth its weight in anything you want to say, whether it's gold, platinum, whatever. It's worth its weight. However, that doesn't necessarily mean you have all the connections to be a fence to then sell that data to the appropriate buyer. So why did this team fall apart so suddenly? What? Additionally, the characters have things like, this is the hacker, this is the muscle, this is the brains.
Right.
They have no ability.
Yeah, it was a perfect opportunity to have some slight asymmetric something. I mean, just anything to bring that theme forward, even if it makes no sense that, yes, you are a team and you are going into this place and you're working together, but now you're not, and you're going after whatever you want to get the best whatever you want. But then you have absolutely no uniqueness to your character.
Yes. And so what ends up happening is, if you look at the entire course of the game, the story you have is, all right, people, we're in here to take down the co-op. It's like, well, no, I'm part of my own team. So he goes running off and she goes running off, and it's like, what just happened? And so chaos ensues and everybody's trying to backstab everybody else. And then like a timer hits and they're like, all right, chaos is over. All right, everybody file out. Let's slowly make our way out of the building. Slowly.
Yeah.
And that is the story you see
unfold as you play this game.
Every single time, because that's the game.
Yeah, that's the other thing is, I'll admit, we only played this once because honestly, as we analyzed it, Nothing different was going to happen. I mean, yes, there'd be different rooms, but generally speaking, the experience of it was going to be the exact same thing. Which, now granted, games like Ink and Gold, yeah, it's the same experience every single time, but there are engaging choices to be made in that game. I didn't feel like any of the choices I was making in here were engaging at all. Even the attempts at using the items cards in interesting ways just still fell flat.
Yeah, and plus there was also a number of instances where I'm not exactly sure how to read this.
Oh yeah, there were a lot of cards I had where like, why is this a card? I don't understand the usefulness, or I don't even, how do I understand this card? I don't understand this card. It doesn't make any sense. The rules don't explain it. And I could interpret it so many different ways. So like one of my, because in a two-player game you play two characters, one of my characters, I never used three of the cards I had drawn for that character from the very beginning of the game because they just made absolutely no sense.
Or were just so circumstantial that it didn't, you couldn't
Yeah, they were
use it.
so specific. In this instance, if this happens and this happens, then you get to do this. And I'm like, is that gonna ever, what's the likelihood? It doesn't make any sense. So
Yes. Ready for reviews?
yeah, let's go over our ratings.
So, for Rolling with Reviews, we each have 1d6 worth of ratings to give. 1 is low, 6 is high. We give a number, a reason why, add those two numbers together, and see what it rolled for us. Sarah, what did Android Infiltration roll for you?
It rolled a 1. None of this worked for me. I had no motivation to play. Again, maybe it could be because of the two-player experience is so poor. If you watch our other video, you know, we did not recommend this for a two-player experience. It was not fun at all. Maybe this would be good at the highest player count of 5 to 6 players, and for people who really like to stab each other in the back, because there was definitely potential there if you could get the cards to allow you to stab other people in the back. Yeah, I think if you could play this game quickly at higher player counts and you like the stabbiness and you liked the dystopian theme, you might like this. But generally speaking, I just can't recommend this at all.
For me, I'm a little bit nicer. I gave it a 2.
Softy.
There is a player base for this game. The problem is you need to get those players together to play this particular game.
Yep.
To have that great experience. I think a great experience is in here. Plus, there's plenty of room to tweak it, house rule it for things to get that experience out even further. It's not going to be worth it for us to meddle with it anymore because most of our games are 2-player. Like Sarah said, max player count is probably ideal for this game to get the best experience out of it. So I'm not writing it off entirely. They did a decent job of creating some bones. It still needs a few extra bits.
It needs a lot of streamlining.
Yeah, streamlining's definitely going to be a big help here. Also, playing it at the right player count with the right people is what you're going to have to do. So 2, 1, that's 3 out of 12. Not a great score for Android Infiltration.
We are not keeping this game.
No. So if you're interested, we have a copy. And that will do it for us here at Rolling with Reviews. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can reach us at the various social media platforms at
Rolling with 2, that's TWO. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And on YouTube, please like and subscribe.
And as long as the job goes right, we've been Rolling with Reviews.